This video is brought to you by Sporlan, quality, integrity, and tradition. All right, we got a walk-in freezer. They called last night at 6 p.m. saying none of the fans were working and it wasn't cooling and the ice cream was soft. I walked them through, checking the breakers and stuff, making sure everything was good. And then all of a sudden she said it started working. But we're still here to follow up to see if we can figure out what happened, what was going on. Everything's working. There's no massive amount of ice on the coil. First thing I'm doing is getting a temperature probe put up in there so that way we can see accurate temperatures. That is not the box temp. It's going to take about 5 minutes for it to stabilize. So we're going to leave it alone, walk out, see what the box temp is, then we can start addressing from there what we need to do. While we're waiting for the temperature downstairs to stabilize out inside the box, we just walk up here to have a look at the condensing unit. This is a single condensing unit running the evaporator just in the freezer. There's no parallel stuff here. So just walking up, it's running. Let's visually look in here, make sure both condenser fan motors are running, and they are. They're both running. The sight glass looks to be clear. It's a little difficult because it's kind of fogged up. So I don't see anything crazy going on here, but we're still gonna get the cover taken off, get a look at the defrost clock. So both condenser fan motors are running. That's good. They seem to be moving a good amount of air. It doesn't look like it to the camera, but it's like the frame rate. Sight glass is definitely clear. It's been overheated, so it's like black or something, but that's okay. The moisture indicator is bad. Nothing too crazy going on here. So here's the deal. At about 6:30 last night, it's now 12 o'clock in the afternoon, about 6:30 last night, they called me and said that walk-in freezer wasn't working at all. If we look, the time is about an hour off, so that's not too bad. I asked them to check the breakers and the twist timer on the wall, because there's a pump down twist timer. And the manager said after they flipped the breakers and the twist timer, then all of a sudden the fan started running, but the ice cream was soft inside the box. They decided they didn't want me to come out on overtime. So as I'm here right now, we're looking, the clock is about an hour off, but that's time change, so no big deal on that, right? It's actually, well actually, is it time change though? Because, yeah, anyways, whatever, it's only an hour off. But there is a defrost at 6 p.m. So that's right around the time that they called me. It could have been in defrost, but defrost wouldn't have melted their ice cream. Defrost, and it doesn't feel like the clock is sticking. So I'm thinking it was a coincidence that it was in defrost because nothing's too crazy here. But we're gonna keep watching. We'll see what the box temp's at. Make sure it's actually getting cold enough, and then we're gonna test that twist timer on the wall to make sure it's not getting stuck, and I'll show that to you guys when I get down there. So yeah, the clock was the wrong direction because I had to move it forward, and it should have been slow. Well, yeah, you should have moved it backwards. So the clock was about an hour off the wrong direction. So I know I'm probably confusing everybody. So what I did was I marked the clock. We marked it at the time, and I've got a stopwatch running on my phone. Okay, it's 12 o'clock. So we're gonna let it run for about 5-10 minutes and make sure that this guy tracks and moves 5 to 10 minutes to make sure nothing funky is happening there. I don't think it's gonna be a bad defrost clock though, because if it was a bad defrost clock, in theory, it might be iced up on the coil, and we're not seeing that right now. Don't know why, but these fuses are bypassed, so that's interesting. But yeah, okay. This guy, we'll have to check that contactor before we finish, but at this point we're just going to go downstairs and see what the box temp is now. So there is a twist timer right here on the wall. That twist timer is a pump down timer. Whenever they're doing any box deliveries, they're supposed to turn that. It's automatic. It lasts for 15 minutes. It disconnects the common or the end wire to the coil, shuts it down, makes the whole system pump down. I've seen those things get stuck and cause the customer to think that their walk-in's not working too. Currently right now, it is almost down to temperature -7 inside this box. So it is cold and it is working properly. So if there was a mechanical problem, logic would tell you that it went down last night, it would still be down. It wouldn't come down to temp. I'm starting to suspect that either the breaker was off, which the manager indicated it wasn't, that she turned it off and turned it back on. I don't think it was tripped. Or that twist timer possibly was stuck. So we're currently timing the defrost clock with the stopwatch. We'll watch that for a few minutes, then we'll time the twist timer to see how that does. So this guy is now at -10, so it should be satisfied. Let's go ahead and head up top and see what's going on up at the condensing unit. We'll check that defrost clock. All right, we come up top and this guy is shut off because it's satisfied. It's set for -10, so it pumped down. Now, next question, is my defrost clock tracking properly and has it moved enough? It has been 39 minutes, so let's just call it 40 minutes since I set this guy. And it looks like, I'm counting the, was there 5-minute increments, I think? No. Those are 15-minute increments, is what they are. Yeah, so 1, 2, I mean, it looks like it's moved properly. It looked like it moved 3 increments, which would be 40 minutes-ish. I don't think it's a defrost problem. I think the defrost clock is working. Let's go down and twist that twist timer and do a time function on that and see how long it takes. It's a 15-minute timer. So if we turn it, within 15 minutes, that box should have turned back on. So let's go down there and check on that. We're gonna leave this alone. Okie dokie, evaporator fan motors are running. So what we're gonna do is hit start, and then we're gonna turn this guy all the way. That's 15 minutes. So we're gonna wait for these fans to turn back on. And I got a timer going right here, so we can test to see if the twist timer is properly working. We know the box is down to temp. Looks like one of the fan motors stopped slower than the others, but I'm not too worried about that. And yeah, I don't think there's any issues, so. It's not frozen up. Everything looks fine there. I mean, no other real issues, so. And it looks like it's maintaining correct temperatures. So yeah, let's test that twist timer. We'll give it a few minutes. Okie dokie, it has been 21 minutes and we have not moved very far on the dial. So you can see we are definitely, something's out of whack here. This guy is kind of getting stuck around the 5-minute mark. I suspect that is just our problem because everything else seems to be working properly on this. Although, we did notice that the condenser is dirty, even though it looks clean. Can't really see through it with a flashlight, so we are gonna shut down the system. We are gonna change this twist timer, which I stock in my truck, and then we are going to clean the condenser and go from there. But yeah, this is definitely a problem. This should have already turned the fans back on, and you can see it's way off, so. I'm thinking that might have been our problem, just getting intermittently stuck. Most of the time you'll find they're just damaged from like moisture intrusion. And you can see my fans still aren't running, so. Also, another thing to think about is that if the unit's in defrost and you do that, the fans aren't gonna turn off, right? Because the defrost is gonna turn the fans off. So just keep in mind, you know what your system's doing. I know this isn't gonna go into a defrost at all. I do wanna talk about why it's so important to stop and think about what you're doing before you start pushing, twisting, pulling, all that stuff. Because the last thing you want to do when you're trying to find a weird intermittent problem is inadvertently fix it without knowing that you fixed it. For instance, don't shut off disconnects unless you know how equipment works. Older carrier package units has a compressor lockout relay that'll have power from X to C. When there's an issue, high pressure, low pressure, it locks the unit out. But if you cycle power, it goes away and you never knew that problem existed. Things like this, we looked at the normal operation, we looked at the condenser, the compressor, the fan motors, everything was working. Defrost clock seems to be working, the coil's not iced up, all the evaporator fan motors are running. What else could it be? I know this restaurant, and I know that these twist timers can often fail. So you can see we're at the almost 25-minute mark, and we're still like just barely past the 5-minute mark. So I think that's gonna be our problem. Always think about what you're doing. Even if our jobs seem easy, you don't want to just go in there and just start doing things because, like I said, you can inadvertently fix a problem. I like to prove my theories. I like to prove the problem. Instead of just guessing, saying, I bet you it's a twist timer, get a stopwatch. We're at 25-minute mark almost, and you know, we barely moved past the 5. So this thing is well over the 15-minute mark by 10 minutes and probably going to go further, right? So always think big when we're doing this stuff. It's so important to understand what you're working on and not be blindly walking in and doing something. If you are blindly walking in, make sure you're communicating everything to your boss, your service manager, whoever, your supervisor, so that way they are more than likely being the ones thinking about, you know, the big picture kind of a thing. All right, so 31 minutes, the fans just turned back on. So this twist timer is definitely bad. I think that it's intermittently getting stuck. Sometimes it probably gets stuck longer. But yeah, that should be 15 minutes. Like, so, you know, yeah, 30 minutes of the walk-in being off is not going to make their ice cream go soft, but if that thing is intermittently getting stuck worse every once in a while, that's probably what the issue is. So we're going to change that. We're going to go turn off power, change this, and then turn off the power, that's right, and then clean the condenser. All right, we could barely see light with the flashlight. Like, you can kind of see it, but it's not great. So we're just using a pump sprayer, not a big deal. We already wet the whole coil. We're gonna put this guy on all the way, top and bottom, foaming it up, and then we're gonna let it sit for, you know, 60 seconds or so. This is an etching coil cleaner, so you gotta be very careful. And then we'll rinse it from both sides, and then hopefully be able to see through it a little bit better. Just always gotta do big picture stuff, right? We're here, you might as well. Get it done right. Find any other problems. You know, we still got to look into that contactor too. So always looking at the big picture here. All right, so we did a single pass, rinsed it, and then now we did one more coat, clean it from both sides. I'm gonna go downstairs and change the twist timer, and Anthony up here is gonna get this thing all rinsed off. And then we'll do our best to get the water kind of diluted, so that way it's just not pure concentrate coil cleaner sitting on the floor, messing things up. It's not gonna be perfect, but we're gonna do our best. So back behind the knob is a retainer nut, but you can clearly see how rusty it is back there. So the whole inside is going to be all rotted out, but we'll get this retainer nut off, then the cover comes off, then the whole thing will pull out of the wall. All right, we got the new twist timer put on the wall. It's all good. There wasn't as much moisture damage in it as I thought. I mean, there was some. You could definitely see rust. I'll try to take it apart if I can at the shop. But that's good. We're going to go upstairs and finish rinsing off the condenser, and then get this guy turned back on. All right, I pulled the cover, and this guy's in pretty bad shape. Let's see if we can see those contacts. Pretty pitted out. So I think it's time, and that's an original contactor too. So I'm going to swap out that contactor. I've got a new one with an auxiliary switch. So that should be for crankcase heater. Yeah, crankcase heater for that one. Or no, that is a auxiliary switch for the defrost heaters is what it is. So that way it makes sure that the defrost heaters aren't engaging when the compressor's engaging. So make sure you pay attention to these aux switches because they have a normally closed. Well, this one has a normally closed and a normally open. So, and I want to be wired into the normally closed. So that's on the bottom side of this. So this guy has two sets. And so all that it does is an action happens when the contactor pulls in. You see that mechanism go down. So when the contactor pulls in, this is going to open. When the contactor's disengaged, this will be closed. And that's the coil voltage for the defrost heaters. So basically the unit has to pump down and go off on low pressure before the defrost heaters can be engaged, is the theory here. Got the contactor replaced. Yeah, those points, contact points right in here are really messed up. This guy's ready, so if I did everything right, it shouldn't blow up. Say it with me, 1, 2, 3. Please don't blow up. Digital control, so it's going to take a second for the control to engage. And this guy should, yeah, we got a green light. So here in a second, should warm up in the box. Temp control comes on, compressor didn't blow up. I think I might have done something right for once. All right, I'm gonna clean up my messes, put the cover back on, and just watch the box operate for a minute. This guy is running. I personally do not see a need to put on service gauges, but I'm using my judgment. I'm making a judgment call. Here's my theory. If it was a low charge issue in my, you know, I'm just thinking out loud here, more than likely it would have issues early in the morning and then be working fine later in the day because we have a head pressure control valve. It's not completely out of gas, so maybe it's just slightly low that when it gets cool outside it starts flashing. But the manager told me specifically that when they came in this morning, the walk-in freezer temps were perfect at 7 a.m. In theory, if it was low on charge, we would see a problem more than likely early in the morning when it's cool outside and the head pressure control valve goes to bypass it. If it doesn't have the right amount of flooded charge, then it starves the condenser, starves the TXV, creates problems. We're running a clear sight glass. The thing was down to temp. We watched it satisfy. It's the middle of the day. I really don't think there's going to be a refrigeration problem. We've seen it pump down. We've seen it turn on. We've seen the pressure controls kick in and out. High pressure control is a manual reset, so it's not off on high pressure. We actually have a cool condenser right now because we just got done rinsing it. So again, I don't see the need to put on service gauges, so we're not going to. I believe the problem was that twist timer sticking, and then we also preventatively changed a contactor that had some pitted out points. And other than that, that's it, and cleaned the condenser. So we're just gonna tell them to keep an eye on it, let us know if they have any other issues. I don't think they're going to.
You know, I'm really comfortable working on this particular piece of equipment at this particular customer. I've worked for them for a very long time, and I'm very familiar with the way that their restaurants operate. With that being said, I have to remember that when I am training the next guy, training other technicians, teaching my technicians, you know, the problems that we run into in our restaurants. So, you know, these videos essentially are a great way for me to train my employees in the way that I want things to be done. So you have to understand that's the whole purpose of these videos. They started out as a training aid for my employees. And then obviously I was convinced to make them public, which they were never in the beginning. And then I decided to start sharing them, you know, and obviously that's influenced the way that I film these videos to this day, but it's still really just me rambling, just talking, the inner workings of my brain. This is what I go through. You know, when I'm troubleshooting things, I have a very different way from many other people of thinking and troubleshooting. There's definitely a little something different in my brain in the way that it operates, something on the level of some sort of neurodivergence. I just know that I'm different, right? Especially with the OCD-like tendencies that I have and all that stuff. See, the interesting thing is that I know I'm aware of who I am and how I act and stuff. It's just, it is what it is. But regardless, when I go through these, I still take that systematic approach to troubleshooting. I just work my way through the problem. And remember to take a step back and look at the big picture when you are troubleshooting things. Think logically. Go through like, okay, do I need to put gauges on this? Now, this is the way that I do it. Now, again, your company, you may have to put gauges on something every time, and that's fine. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just choosing to be lazy. That's all. That's really what it is. And I'm trying to justify in my head why I'm being lazy, because I didn't want to put my service gauges on this system. But I really didn't see a need to. And I just for the reasons that I explained in the video. If it was low on charge, it's, you know, we're having cold mornings, we would have seen an issue. And the problem got better since they called me, because when they called me, they said their ice cream was soft, but then everything started working. Now, I don't think the breakers were off. I did ask the manager to go verify. She didn't imply that she had to turn it off, then turn it back on. You know, like, because if a breaker's tripped, you have to go to the off position, then the on position. Like, I didn't give that instructions. I just said, hey, go make sure the breaker's not off, right? So they went through that. But again, I don't think that any of these had anything to do with it. I think that the unit more than likely had a stuck twist timer, and I think that possibly it had gone through a defrost around that time. So, you know, a little while went by, and they came in there, the fans still weren't working, the ice cream was getting soft, they went ahead and put in a service call, but they didn't want me to come out that night. So we came out the next morning, and everything was great. And it's been, I don't know, a while since I filmed this video. So I was filming these on iPhone for a while, and I'm actually not going to anymore because there's some silly, frustrating things in the iPhone footage, the way that it saves it. And I mentioned this before, and a bunch of people are like, you could do it, you could do it. Okay, on Android, I'm looking through the stuff right now. On Android, I use iPhone for my personal phone and for my work phone, but I was using it. I have another iPhone that I was using for filming because they have a cool camera in there. But there's some quirks in the iPhone camera, and Android, the file name includes the date. So whenever I'm looking at these clips, I'm talking to you, I look over because I want to look at the date at when this was filmed, and I'm looking at iPhone clips, and it doesn't have the date in there. I know you can click on the file, go into the properties, and see it that way, but I just like being able to look it over the file structure and just going, boom, this video was filmed a couple months ago. But no, this video I think was filmed a couple weeks ago, like 2-3 weeks ago. So customer's been happy ever since I went out there and changed that twist timer, and then obviously changed the contactor and clean the condenser. Now, the contactor was more of a preventative thing. It was severely burnt. This restaurant had been around for a long time. I can tell. I think the date on the equipment was 2006 was when the restaurant started. And that contactor's lived a good life. I can tell it's an OEM original contactor, hasn't been changed. And yeah, they've gotten some good life out of that. Now we put in another one. I don't know if you'll necessarily get that much life out of it, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I really appreciate you, as usual, making it to the end of these. It's kind of crazy and very humbling for me to know that you guys watch these videos, and it's literally just the inner ramblings of my brain. Like, I'm just filming what I do. I'm not scripting. I'm not planning, nothing. So it's kind of crazy that you guys watch these videos. Thank you so very much for doing so. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel, the easiest way to do so, like, doesn't cost you a single thing but a little bit of your time. All you got to do is watch the videos from beginning to end. That's the easiest way for you to support this channel. There's a couple other ways if you're interested in doing so. You can support the channel via PayPal, Patreon, or YouTube channel memberships. Those are all ways that you can make monthly commitments, donating money to the channel. Totally on you. You don't have to do that, okay? But there's links in the show notes of this video if you'd like to do so. Also, you can support this channel by going to my website, hvacrvideos.com. We have merchandise available, including these hats right here. You can also go to truetech.tools.com. If you go to truetech.tools.com, we have an affiliate program set up. And with the affiliate program, what you do is you find some tools on their website that you like. If you like what they have, see if they have it in stock. You can use my offer code BIGPICTURE, one word. If you use my offer code, it's actually an affiliate code. I get a small commission from the purchase, and you get an 8% discount on majority of the items that they sell on their website. Now, there's a few things the discount doesn't apply to, but for the most part, majority of the items on there, you'll get an 8% discount. I get a small commission. Another great way to help support the channel. Again, thank you so very much. I really do appreciate you, and we will catch you on the next one, okay?